the next 20 years in American and global history are going to be the most transformative years that we've ever encountered. These are the years where brain-computer interfaces are going to come online, nanotechnology is going to come online, genetic engineering is going to come online to the extent we have designer organisms in babies. These are the years where it's going to be quite common for people to be cybernetically augmented. These are the years where artificial intelligence will become indistinguishable from humans and eventually surpass us. These are the years where new models of computation are going to exist, which will rapidly and radically accelerate research, specifically quantum computing and all the derivations of that. These are the years where humanity will likely become a multiplanetary species and start actually doing things on Mars, and space technology will grow exponentially. These are the years where new weapon systems are going to come online like we've never seen before, like orbital kinetic bombardment, look up rods from God, and thousands of other things that are direct derivations of all these new technologies we're inventing, including automated warfare, autonomous warfare, which is horrific. These are the years where gain of function is going to advance thanks to all these technologies, and you could see things like aerosolized rabies. You could see all kinds of new diseases that will come. The next 20 years, that is a certainty. The technology is expanding exponentially. So you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, is the wisdom growing at the same rate? No. The wisdom gap is growing and growing and growing and growing. How should we responsibly use these things for the greatest good for all? We're not asking those questions. Instead, we've been ideologically pushed into bins and made to hate each other and not cooperate with each other, and made to believe that the leaders of the bins are so handsome and powerful and capable that they will protect us. Meanwhile, when they get to office, you ask yourself, do they really have the depth to understand the magnitude of what's before us? Do they really have the appreciation to understand that we've gone from a century where we had just one existential technology, nuclear weapons, to a century where we'll probably have 5 to 10 more in addition to nuclear weapons? We twice publicly almost came to nuclear Armageddon, once during the Cuban Missile Crisis and once during the 1980s. And it was a single individual in both cases that made the judgment call not to end the entire human race. Both cases against orders and against the military institutions they belong to. We got so lucky as a species in the 20th century. So lucky. And now we have 10 more of these things in addition to the other thing. We actually are flirting with the potential of nuclear war in 2022. And a single individual in Russia gets to make that decision, who has potentially no incentive not to make it correctly. Why? Because he's probably old and dying of cancer. And who cares? If he's out, why don't we all go out? We don't know. It's a real possibility. And to ignore it is to ignore the tremendous wisdom overhead that this technology carries. And if we're having difficulty with the technology of the 20th century, do you think the leadership we have today will give us what we need for the 21st century? So how do you get out of it? Through decentralization, through thinking, free thought, dialogue. It's not a coincidence that certain movements like the woke movement and other things happen to be robbing us of our ability to communicate with each other. We can't even have free speech anymore. Free speech is a sin now. Apparently, the risk of offending people overrides the social value of dialogue. That is a humongous problem, because we have to have dialogue in order to survive the things that we are right now today as a society constructing. So think it through. Take a moment and really understand what's happening. Really understand that you are living through history at the moment. Textbooks, history books will be written about this era. And collectively, we get to decide what they're going to say. We get to decide whether they say, this was the moment that we did things differently and we changed the course of history, just like the founding of the United States of America. There, The way things were done were with kings. And we decided to do things very differently. And we created this constitutional republic, the first of its kind in the modern era. And it gave us 200 plus years of transformation in the way the world order should work. And we have to do this again. We have to embrace basic concepts that slow some things down, regulate other things, and allow the wisdom to catch up with the technological progress. And we have to prevent small groups of people, individuals or federations, from having so much power that they can unilaterally end the entire human race. It's not hyperbole, it's true. It's there. It's staring us in the face. And every futurist, every person that studies these things will tell you this, will understand this. AI and the problem of control, all the books written on the dangers of gain of function, all the documents about the gray goo problem of nanotechnology, they're there. And dictators are using these technologies to dominate and control their people at scales we've never seen, that the Stasi would have dreamed of. For example, Xi with what he's doing with social credit and the end-to-end control of the entire Chinese people. Look at the zero COVID policy and what's happened there. How brutal that's been. That's a sample of what the capabilities are of these new technologies. And again, what constrains them, what controls them, and what you're doing when you succumb to Team Red or Team Blue, you align yourself with an ideology and allow yourself to succumb to propaganda, is you're recusing yourself from being an author of that history book that's being written. And you're reading it instead. And there's no guarantee it's going to have a good ending. It's that simple. This is why I'm in the cryptocurrency space. This is why I'm a blockchain entrepreneur, because I refuse to believe that I have no ability to influence the outcome. I'd like to believe in my own small part. With your help, we can do something about this and end this madness. We can build better governance systems. We can disintermediate centralized authorities and power brokers and replace them with things that are more sensible and refined. We can call out propaganda when we see it in our own community and in the global commons, and we can rise above the tides, come together and build something new and different and better that will allow us to finally have something that is apparently an incredibly scarce supply, wisdom. That's all I ask. And that's why I make these videos. If you tell me to stay in my lane, you're the problem. And you've missed the entire point of why this industry exists and why it still is worth over $1 trillion and why it gives people so much hope.